So I heard a statement recently, and I thought it got me thinking. Marketing is a tax on being unremarkable. The more unremarkable you are, the more you have to spend on marketing. And I thought, actually, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because actually, when you stand out, your marketing is really easy. When everybody knows your business because you stand out and you look different to all of your competition, the marketing actually is really easy. It's like the Marmite effect, isn't it? You know, some people, not everyone's going to love you, but everyone knows it. You either love them or you hate them. And in fact, they say in business, you should adopt the Marmite approach. If everyone kind of likes you, nobody remembers you. You want people to either love you or hate you, generate proper emotions, and you will have a reaction and you will have an impact. So the difference between obscurity and success is standing out. And your ideal clients are already looking for solutions that you can give them, but you've just got to become remarkable in your space so they see you as the only place they will go to when the time is right for them. And that's really what marketing is all about. So one of the people that I think talks the most sense when it comes to marketing is a guy called Alex Hormozi. I've referred to him in a few previous workshops. But Alex Hormozi is a bright guy, actually. Has anyone listened to his recent interview on Diary of a CEO? No, it's really worth listening to. He is a bright cookie. He actually was a McKinsey consultant. So he went through, I think, Stanford or MIT, can't remember which. Became a McKinsey consultant. Basically, that means in his parents' eyes, he had made it, he'd done it, he'd got a high-paying job, but he hated it. And so he quit and he set up a marketing business for gyms. His dad had I think his dad spoke to him for several years after that. But he was absolutely determined that he was going to make this work. And he basically created a business where all he did was show gyms how to be completely full and have a waiting list for people. And he created a phenomenal business doing that. He sold it, made a whole load of money, and then he's done it several times since. And he talks about creating this high converting magnets. And I love what Bhavesh has done here, because you have just created a brilliant magnet. That is a magnet you can use in so many different ways. It's a perfect example of a magnet, because you can use that we'll talk about the different ways you can use it. But that is an opportunity to give away, to mention, to get you in the press, get you on stages, get you in so many different places and change the conversation. And it puts you out there as a thought leader. And so if we're trying to create magnets, and the reason why these magnets are so good is, so for example, I used to be featured on LBC radio regularly. It was on Sunday evening slot with Clive Bull on finance. And they'd get me in and I'd trot off down to London, and I would often it would just be a phone in for questions about money and pensions. And I had no idea what question was going to be thrown at me until it was like, right, you're there on the spot. But the only reason it's worth me doing that is if I'm memorable and we can somehow reach out to those people that are calling in, or not even calling in, that are just listening. You know, LBC radio, I think at the time, I can't even remember what the listenership was, but it was, you know, a lot of people. So every opportunity I would drop in a lead magnet. Oh, by the way, yeah, you know, so you phone up talk about pensions. Yeah, here's the sort of story around this. Here's the principle that you need to know. Comes back to what we talk about in the story playbook. You tell a story, you give them the learning message. They go, oh yes, I understand that. And then you go, oh, by the way, if you want to read more about that, I put that in my book, The Dream Retirement, and you can download it for free at my website. And like Clive Bull, if I try to sell the concept of, you know, efficient portfolios, truly independent financial planning, and we'll give you, you know, we'll give you a great service, he would have closed me down immediately. I wouldn't be back the following Sunday. But you're giving a free book to my listeners actually that's just adding more value, isn't it? So that's why these attraction marketing devices are so powerful, because you can just go, all right, this is a thing that you can download for free. In exchange, you're getting their email address. You can then communicate with them and follow up. It's that type of principle that's really powerful. And also, one of the things that Hormozy talks a lot about is paid traffic. So it's really then fueling that. You can throw fuel on the fire by driving those the traffic to those lead magnets. And ultimately, it's also then about building systems. And one of the things he talks about in that podcast specifically is there's kind of 3 principles around which you want to think about when it comes to your marketing and or your business, but your marketing in particular. What are you passionate about? What have you proven? So what examples have you got that you've said, this does this? And what pain have you been through, or do you see your ideal clients going through? Because if you think about it, if you build your marketing around, this is what this does in my business, this is what this happens in the regulatory world that I live in, or in the business sector that I live in. People, it doesn't generate any passion. It's not talking about any pain, and you're not giving them any proof around what it is that you do. But if you say, I'm really passionate about this because I had this painful experience and I had to work it out for myself, and then what I did was I thought maybe it was just me, so I tried it on these other people, and these other people did this same thing, and I'm really passionate about sharing the message of people removing this pain and delivering this thing, people go, wow, that's what I need. And that's what we're trying to do with the marketing, is we're trying to generate emotions so that we stand out. People don't remember what you say, but they do remember how you make them feel. So I said I'd come back to magnification mastery. I'm not going to go into the details of magnification mastery today, other than every time we build something, we've got to think about how do we use this many, many, many times, infinite amounts of time, without it costing me any more time myself. So once you've put the time into writing a book, you can use that in so many ways. It could be 25 blog articles. It can be an audio book. You could create a course on the back of the book that you've written. You could have QR codes. Excellent. You could have QR codes in your book that take people to the different things that you mention. You can have so many different, you can have a podcast based on the book. You can have so many things spring out of one thing. But you do it once and then you use it many, many, many times. So magnification mastery is definitely something you want to think about. That also applies, just to step back away from marketing for a second and think back to client servicing. You just said at the start of today, all my clients that have anything to do with hospitality are affected by this NI change and the minimum wage change. But you said it's not even actually just them, it's everyone. It's just that it hits them hardest. You could do one thing that educated every client in that principle. That's magnification. Instead of going out and thinking I've got 100 clients, I've got to have 100 conversations. We went through this with the client servicing proposition, didn't we? So how can we, the markets are crashed. Every client review we do for the next quarter is going to be talking about the markets. We're going to be explaining exactly the same principle 100 times in the next few weeks. Or we just do it once. So how can we magnify everything that we do by doing it once and sending it and how it impact many? So that's what magnification mastery is, but I'm not going to get into that today, but I'll get Amy to send that around. It's all in the portal, but it's really worth doing based on a few of the things that you guys have said. So what are the 6 A's of client attraction? Well, firstly, you've got to actually think about what it is that's going to attract those clients in. You've got to then kind of amplify that, and you can do that through advertising. You've got to think about how you create persuasive messaging. So that's about how you articulate. You've then got to kind of advise rather than sell. I think that's the key message there. Is it's not about selling, it's about advising. You want to automate it, and then you got to amplify all of the stuff that you do. And we're going to go through each of those steps with a view to hopefully generating some ideas around how you can transform the marketing that you do. Not so that it just works, but so that it actually really delivers the ideal clients, because that's ultimately the important thing. So attract. If we want to really attract people into our business, we've got to think differently and we've got to stand out. Now, I want you to imagine that you're driving through the Rutland countryside and you're looking at the lovely green pastures, and there's lots of lovely Holstein Friesian cows in the fields, lots of black and white cows, and then suddenly there's a purple cow. You go, holy shit, there's a purple cow. You take a photo, you send it to your mates at the dinner party or the pub that night, you tell them about the purple cow. You can't help but tell everyone about the purple cow because it stood out. And yet, there was lots of other cows in the fields. That is the principle. So Seth Godin is one of the best authors and speakers on the topic of marketing. He's done, like, God knows how many, I've lost track of how many books he's written. I'll make the name a couple of them, one of which was called The Purple Cow. And it's about how do we make our business talkable? How do we make it stand out? So if you're trying to do something different, it can't be, it's got to be exciting and interesting and different. So I know he's not popular, but I'm going to stick with the Tesla example again. If Tesla was just trying to be the first electric car company, would it have been that interesting a message? No. But Tesla were making fast, luxurious, desirable, safe, smart cars. Whether the Cybertruck is desirable or not, I've seen a few of them in person. They are actually amazing. I couldn't get my head around it until I saw one in person, and now I think they are actually really cool. But gull-wing doors on the Model X, the Roadster doing 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. I mean, the Cybertruck certainly stands out. That's definitely a Marmite car, isn't it? But that's what got people talking about it. That's what got people, Elon Musk was passionate about cars, but he said, people aren't just going to buy it because it's an electric car. It's got to be fast. It's got to be cool. It's got to be safe. It's got to be different. It's got to stand out. There's got to be a message. And that's why, and ultimately, whether you like him or loathe him, if he hadn't done what he's done with Tesla, you can guarantee Mercedes wouldn't be pumping out the electric cars that they are, and BMW the same, et cetera, et cetera. That has moved that game on dramatically because of it. So we've really got to think about, well, okay, what are the attraction marketing devices that we can use? So what I did was I thought back to, well, what were the best ones we used at Efficient Portfolio? Because we decided, and I think I've told you this before, we had 3 ideal clients. So retirement clients, post-retirement inheritance tax planning clients, and entrepreneur clients. Those are our 3 ideal clients. Something that we've put a lot of thought into recently, actually. So with a trusted team, we've concluded now that our ideal clients aren't by sector or by size, they're by pain point. So we have ideal clients that are too busy. Their work-life balance is shot to pieces. We have ideal clients that need more ideal clients. And we have ideal clients that are they've solved those bits and they need to grow their business, but without them, and make it saleable and scalable. So those we've worked out are our 3 ideal clients. Yes, they need to be within certain sectors, professional service firms, but that's now really changed our thinking just recently on what our ideal clients look like. So what were our best attraction marketing devices? Well, definitely the Dream Retirement book was the best, without a doubt. The last time we stopped counting, we'd made over £1 million worth of fee income from the Dream Retirement, and that was well before we sold the business. I'd guess you could probably add another 2 million of the sale value attributed to what that book generated for us. So without a doubt, that changed the game. I wouldn't have been on LBC radio if I hadn't written that book, or BBC radio. I wouldn't have been on ITV. I wouldn't have been on the stages in front of literally thousands of people if I hadn't written that book. So that book definitely changed the game for us. I think the quiz funnel is a great concept, which I'll talk more about. We had the 2-minute retirement plan. So anyone could go on and build, Nitesh built it for us. So you could just go on in 2 minutes, answer a load of questions, and they basically had a basic cash flow forecast built for them all for free, with a full report sent to them automated. Dream retirement dinner. So this was born out of somebody saying to me that a client to him was worth £1 million. So he knew that he could spend £100,000 on getting a client and it was still 10x profitable. So he would take, when somebody referred him to a client, he would take them on a cruise because he knew actually that was just money well spent. But if they're £1 million clients, it's slightly different. I suspect that's not the case for the businesses in this room. But it's actually important to know the lifetime value of a client, because that way you can justify spending money. And Alex Hormozy will go back and say, actually, it's not about spending the least amount of money. It's about spending as much money as you possibly can, but keeping it profitable. Because every time we acquire a client, that is value in terms of, recurring fees, sale value to the business, all of that stuff. So we would do a dinner. Sometimes we did it here with a chef coming in. Sometimes we did it at high-end Michelin star restaurants, called the Dream Retirement Dinner. I would speak in between each course. We'd invite people in. People would just, you get this lovely invite out of the blue, never heard of them, but you're being invited to a really lovely dinner. We'd send them a book with it. So immediately it stands out. Hang on, he's the expert because he's written a book on it. It's not just some normal rubbish junk mail in the post. And I'm being invited to a free dinner. That all sounds very good to me. And we picked up a lot of clients by doing that. Yes, it cost us a load of money, but it made us way more money in the long run. So for those retirement clients, those were our best marketing magnets. Same principle we applied to the inheritance tax people, the inheritance post-retirement people. They've got more time on their hands, so we did that over a lunch, not a dinner. Get them in. They love a free lunch. But we also created the book, The Life Legacy Gift, and we've got the quiz funnel for them, 1 Minute Wealth Protector, because protecting the wealth they've already accumulated was the key driver for them. And for the entrepreneurs, they love a breakfast. So the business planning breakfast, quiz funnel, 1 Minute Wealth Builder, because they're all about building wealth, entrepreneurial happiness, the book. Again, they were our best magnets. And so when I've thought about this recently, I thought, well, okay, why don't we have a quiz funnel for all those people that have not got a good work-life balance? Why don't we have a separate quiz funnel for all the clients that need to grow their business and need more ideal clients? Why don't we have a book for each of those as opposed to a generic book? So it's helping me process my thinking better. So one of the reasons why it's really important you go through the ideal client niche, actually, which again, Amy is typing as we speak, to direct you to the ideal client niche. So these are 4 of Seth Godin's book, of his many books. I think these are great books. This is Marketing, is one of the best marketing books you can read. The Purple Cow, I've already mentioned. The Dip, probably slightly less memorable. Linchpin is a great one to get your team reading, actually. That's a really brilliant book to get your team reading, as is Tribes. But yes.
Just to say, The Dip, actually, for me, I only read it a couple of months ago. It was life-changing for me because I realised that I needed to stop doing some stuff.
Excellent. I think every Seth Godin book I've read has been brilliant. It's a long time since I read The Dip. But actually, it was a long time since I read Purple Cow, and that stands out. I've read This Is Marketing twice because it's so good. But the goal is, so I think that Seth Godin's principle within This Is Marketing is the goal is not to force sales, but to earn attention. That's what we're trying to do here. You're earning the right to have people express interest. And of course, when somebody voluntarily gives you their email address or downloads something from you or follows you online, then they're basically saying, yep, I'm interested. I want to know more. And that's where you can give them loads more value. And if you want a kind of quick way of diving into what Seth Godin is all about, he's got a great TED talk called How to Get Your Ideas to Spread, which is really worth watching. And again, another example of this is Amazon. We use Amazon despite the fact that it's the detriment to the high street because it's so easy. It's so quick. It's going to be there tomorrow. I'm like, oh God, I need some bird food. Do I either trek my way around B&M, which is not even very far from here, or do I just order on Amazon and somebody delivers it to my house? Much easier, much quicker, much better for me. And so therefore, that's the way that we do it. And that's why people use Amazon. So advertise, how do we drive then paid traffic to the things that we are wanting to attract people towards? Well, that's where Hormozy kicks in. Two brilliant books on this topic. I think he's about to release his third book, actually. $100 million leads and $100 million offers. I would honestly say, reading these, if this is where you need to focus, is like drinking from a fire hydrant in terms of marketing ideas. It is. Has anyone here read any of these books? Oh my God, there is so much in them. This guy is, I think there's a lot of rubbish talked about in the marketing world, but this guy is absolutely on it. Brilliant. And I think probably one of the simplest takeaways from this is you want to think about, in everything that you do, and I'm going to show you an example of one of our videos in a minute, and I watched it back with this in mind, and I'm going to call us out and say we didn't do this well enough in the video in a minute. But essentially what you're looking for is hook, somebody that gets something that pulls you in and goes, I need to pay attention. Offer, and then it's something to actually make them take action. That is really what we're trying to do with anything that we do in marketing. In terms of that hook, I remember I was telling this story yesterday in the leadership meeting. When I was on YouTube, when I was about to buy my first Tesla, actually, so 5-ish years ago, and I was going to watch a YouTube video review of a car. I can't remember whether it was the Tesla or one of the other things we were considering at the time. And up popped Frank Kern. Now, Frank Kern was another marketeer he's got a bit quiet now, but he was another one of the best marketeers. And his first line, so I'm there ready to watch a review of a car. And Frank Kern pops up as the advert on YouTube going, I got kicked out of a strip club. And I'm like, I need to know this story. Where does this go? And I totally forgot about the fact I was supposed to be watching. I watched the 15-minute advert he'd created on YouTube. I clicked his link. I ended up getting emails from him for the next year or before I unsubscribed. But it was just a brilliant hook because it prompted my thinking to go, where's this going? So you've got to really grab them. And the other person that I would read, if you really want to dive into this topic, and I actually don't know that I would recommend any of the founders of businesses read these books necessarily. I'd give them to your marketing people, the people that you're kind of delegating that part of your business to, and say, read this. Or go to ChatGPT and go, here's my business. Give me a 5-point summary of what Russell Brunson, this guy, would tell me what to do based on his principles within this book. But one of the things I think is really important here, and a principle that is that's endorsed by people like Seth Godin, is that you want the combination of organic and paid marketing. So organic is that kind of really brand awareness, but you can't really measure the results. It's that just getting stuff out there, whether it's into the local newspaper, whether it's organic content going out online, and you get it out there into the world, and you're just building that brand awareness. And then you use the paid version to really amplify what works in your organic space, or you design specific measurable ads that you pay for. You go, and those two different ways of measuring. Organic, you can't measure it expecting leads back. It's like sponsoring the Rutland show, which we did for a few years. It was difficult to measure the impact of that. Yes, we could know that we maybe got 50 people's email addresses from being at that event, but the brand awareness of having like literally 10,000 people from Rutland going to the show that you've sponsored is totally different. You can't measure that. So that's your organic marketing, which is the same as you do online, but then paying to uplift the organic that works, or creating, that the paid stuff is where you really measure it and work out lead accuracy. So I'm just we're going to have a break for lunch in a second. I'm going to show you this advert that we did as a call out ad. And the thing that we've done here is we're trying to get people to go, yeah, this is a problem. Yeah, I can relate to this person. I just want to have a chat with them. It's really, really easy. But when I watched this back, and I only picked this one because this is the one that Amy sent me when I said, send me A1, but I don't think our hook is very good. We've got a day of filming next week, so we need better hooks, but we were talking about that yesterday. But here's an example of an ad. I just literally filmed on the iPhone with this microphone. A few years ago, when I first set up my own business in the professional services space, probably like you, I was working every hour God sends. I had a good but not great business. And gradually my passion was draining out of the business as I did more and more of the stuff that I didn't like. And I went on a journey. I went on a journey that involved reading over 300 business books, spending literally tens of thousands of pounds on coaching. And across all of those different mechanisms, I found some absolute golden nuggets that worked really well in professional services. And what I did was I put all of those together in what I later called the Better Future Framework. And the Better Future Framework was the framework around which I wrote a book, Entrepreneurial Happiness. And I wanted to share how you can grow your business by 50% year on year whilst working less and enjoying more. And the way I can do that is through a business that we've called the Trusted Team. Now, the Trusted Team isn't just about how I've succeeded in creating a business that grows whilst taking 3 months of every year off, but it's also now helped loads of other entrepreneurs to reduce the amount of hours that they work at the same time. So whether you want to grow your business, or whether you want to regain your work-life balance, or whether you want to put the fun and passion back into your business, the Trusted Team can help you do so. So that is one way that you might want to do it. It's just a straightforward ad. Click the link below, book a call, and we'll come back to why that is the best sort of segue, or one of the best segues into that approach. One of the things you definitely need to do is measure the success, though. If it's paid advertising, it's really, really, otherwise you will just throw money, good money after bad. You've got to measure it and split test it. So before we dive into Articulate, which we will do after lunch, let's have a break for lunch. I've got an activity that I want you to all do, which is inspired by the Founders Club, by the way. There's a great idea at the new members breakfast. So I'm going to get you, we have one time sensitive piece, which is the fact that Carol dials in at 10 to 2. So we'll do a bit more of this and then we'll finish this off afterwards. So unfortunately, that means that the Articulate, or the 6 A's are being broken up, but maybe that'll help your thinking. There is actually there's some research that says if you're given a maths problem to do, which comes back to the evaluation spotlight, if you're given a maths problem to do and you're given a period of time to solve the problem, versus given the maths problem, go off, look at some art, and then come back, you solve the maths problem much better because your subconscious has been processing the maths problem while you've been looking at the art. So hopefully that principle is going to play out with me interrupting your 6 A's of attraction. So Articulate is one of the things that we need to think about when we're thinking about our marketing. And one of the biggest problems we have in today's society is keeping people's attention. So apparently in the year 2000, the human attention span was 12 seconds. Apparently nowadays it is 8 seconds, which doesn't seem like a huge amount, but when apparently a goldfish has a attention span of 9 seconds, we now have a lower attention span than the goldfish, which makes marketing really, really difficult because you've got 8 seconds to stand out before they scroll onto the next thing.
It's meant to be 3 now.
Is it 3? Wow. Yeah, and that is really worrying, isn't it? Because you've got 3 seconds to make an impact. That's why you need to be a purple cow. You need to look different, sound different, but you also need that call out. That's why that hook is so powerful. If it's specifically saying, I'm speaking to you. You know, if I jump onto your Instagram and I'm like, are you an architect looking to grow your business and get your time back? You're like, yes, that's me. it's when I sign. But that's how our marketing needs to kind of get that reaction immediately. Why Frank Kern's "I got kicked out of a strip club" was the hook immediately. Now, I appreciate that might not be the hook that everyone wants to hear the story of, but it certainly worked for me. But we have a lot of challenges, and I think in professional services, one of the biggest problems, and particularly financial services, one of the biggest problems is trust. So we have to build trust in our marketing, because, like, particularly, let's pick on financial advisors. There is a huge distrust of the world in the world of finance, and I know that I knew that when I was a financial advisor, because everyone, oh yeah, they're all just chasing more commission, aren't they? That's what the public are thinking. So we have to overcome that very quickly with our marketing. It's how can we build trust? A book, by the way, is a great way to build trust, because it immediately says, you've put yourself out there, you are the expert, you've written a book on it, you must be trustworthy. Probably not quite as much as it was 20 years ago, but it still has a massive impact on that. The second thing we need to do is we need to agitate the pain. We need to talk about the fact that, and by the way, that can also be about relating to that pain. So if we go back to my little video ad, I was saying, look, I've been through this. I built a pretty good business, but my work-life balance was shot to pieces. I struggled with this, and it's only when I did this that I solved the problem. But you want to agitate that pain, and the agitation can be around, what are you really, if your work-life balance is off, what are you missing? Are you missing your children growing up? Are you not as fit and healthy as you should be because of the fact that your work-life balance is off? You'll really kind of stick the fork in and kind of work it around a bit and get that pain, because that's what's going to get them to react. It's the way that you make them feel. And then you've got to have something to get them to take action. That's going to be partly about the pain. It's going to be partly about the trust. And it's going to be partly around, well, how appealing is it? Is it costing me money? Is it costing me time? Because giving their time up is an investment. Is it really easy do I just give them an email address and they're going to solve all my problems for me? What are you going to do to get them to take action? So one of the ways that you can, so the video ad that I showed you was no more than 90 seconds. If you're going to do a video ad, it can't be more than 90 seconds. But you might say, well, actually, I want to get more of a message across than I can do in 90 seconds. So the next way you could do that is what's called a VSL, a video sales letter. So I like the video sales letter because it's kind of up to about 5 minutes, which is really, it's not as committal as I'm going to sign up to a webinar or I'm going to come to a seminar, but actually you can get a reasonable amount of message across in 5 minutes. So a video sales letter is typically just, normally you would you might send them from an ad to a VSL. So it's a short video ad that then sends them to a page that is just, looks like your website, but all the menu bits are removed so that they don't go off and get distracted elsewhere. And you've just got you playing for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is, and then a call to action. And the video sales letter actually, I think, is a really nice way of doing an easy, short, essentially piece of, it's your opportunity to pitch, get that pain highlighted, give you the opportunity to share trust. So I actually think this is a great tool in the marketing arsenal because it allows you to do it properly. I'm not going to play.
Hey, Charlie Redding from the Trusted Team here.
But
a
this
few
is
years
an
ago
example
when
of
I
what
first set up
video
my
sales
own
letter might look
business in the professional services space, probably like you, I was working every ad God sends. I had a good, but not great business.
But it is a great tool in the arsenal. Obviously, I've already shared these with you, but these are, again, great ways of articulating what you're trying to do for your clients. And actually, what's important when you try and name these things, name them based around the benefit people are getting from them. What's the benefit that people get from sorting out their pension is they get the dream retirement. Now we could have written a book about sorting out your pension. Not one person would have ever read it ever. And the person that did wouldn't have been our ideal client, probably our competitor. The dream retirement is what people want, So you've got to think about how you name it, what you build for your ideal client, and how you articulate that. So we're on to the advise part of the 6 A's of attraction. One thing I will just point that I thought some really interesting pieces from Carol's talk were, did you see her lovely framework, what we would call the framework formula, in terms of her smarts? She'd created the system, she'd got the acronyms, all the alliterations, just creates it really easy for her to remember what to talk about, and really easy for you to remember what she does talk about. So that, if you're thinking that you need to install that into your business, which I would really encourage you to do, particularly if you're doing content like courses or seminars or that sort of stuff, or keynote speaking, then the framework formula is the bit to make a beeline for, because it'll talk you through how you build those frameworks. And obviously, this is an example of one framework. I thought she did that really well. Interestingly, that which now seems to be the way that Andy coaches his speakers, she put the sales pitch in the middle, not at the end, so that you've got half an hour of time to process it and potentially ask questions about it. Interesting, different take. She definitely told you something that we'd already touched on today, who she can help and who she can't help. So she was saying, go away if you're like this, come to me and for help if you're like this. So I think that was really interesting and a really good lesson in terms of marketing. And then also ideal client. She was talking about that ideal avatar, knowing who you're speaking to and calling out, because it's only when you make that call out to, like the best of those LinkedIn profiles said, I help this person do this, which is exactly what we were talking about earlier. So we've got to really know and be very clear about that. So once we get some interaction with people, we've then got to think about, well, how do we lead, not sell? So that's really the message that I think comes from a lot of these marketing books nowadays, is you don't, like Carol said it, if you go out and try and hard sell people, particularly on a format like LinkedIn or on your socials, if you go out quickly and go, right, actually I'm just trying to sell you something, everyone's just going to go, thanks but no thanks. So you've got to try and lead them to see where you can really help. And there's a few ways that you can do that. When we ran Efficient Portfolio, we would always offer the financial breakthrough call, because a conversation is really what we were always trying to get to. We still do this with the trusted team. It's called the coaching call. And really what you're trying to say is, we're going to give up our time if you're willing to give up your time, and we'll just work out how we can help you, or how you need to be helped. Because that is the way the most successful coaching business, the most successful professional practices operate. That's their kind of first stage of the process, because that way it can be about coaching and advising as opposed to selling. So at the financial breakthrough call, we would always, so if we were doing, let's say, the dream retirement dinner, you've had a lovely dinner, I've talked to you a bit about retirement planning, and then I say, and look, by the way, I'm not here to sell you anything. If this sounds of interest, all we'd like to do is have a conversation with you. And obviously the easiest way to do that is to book that into my diary, and you can do and nowadays the best way to do that is the combination of a QR code and Calendly. You can use that really well online. You can use it when you're doing keynote speeches. I think if I'd given Carol the opportunity, she was going to pull up a slide with a QR code that linked to her Calendly. Just really simple. Evergreen webinars, great way of doing if you want to deliver a call as your core offering, that is a brilliant way of doing it. And it's just really easy to do. The other line that I've heard people use, which I thought Carol was going to use, probably I would if I'd given her the chance, but certainly Andy Harrington used when he did that, was he said, and I have used this on a keynote, I've said, oh, I forgot to check that the QR code is working. Is it working? And of course, people are like, oh, yeah, it's working. Great, excellent. They'll go off and book the discovery call. So that is just a really soft way of saying, look, let's just have a chat. And then you can kind of build it up from there. If you're doing the event in person, So for those of you that, I mean, this isn't a sales event where you've already bought, so I don't need to sell you anything. But if you were here at an event in person where we wanted you to take an action, the way that we would always do that is a feedback form. So a feedback form, we would always say, you know, the only way we make these things better is to know what we did well and what we could do better. So we'd be really grateful if you're doing feedback, filling out the feedback form. And obviously in the feedback form, would you like a discovery call, tick box? It's really easy, you know, and then you're off. You've got permission to go contact them to create that. But asking for that feedback is a really lovely, soft way of going, we want to know whether we can get in contact with you or whether you're going to get irritated. And again, one of the things that we did, which we started doing, and we did at the Founders Limitless Life Workshop, we put the same QR code on the feedback form. So if the slide's gone or whatever, they can do it whenever they want to. So that's a really easy thing to do. The last piece is to automate. Not the last piece, the penultimate piece is to automate as much as you can. Going back to that magnification mastery piece. So for example, Carol's just done this session. She could take that session that she has recorded and using automation tools, that could be an evergreen webinar that you go on to and do any time that she ever, anyone ever wants to do it again. It's really, really, well, I say easy, I've never actually done it, but between Charlotte and Amy, they've done it. But nowadays, the technology is there to allow you to have, so every time you deliver content, you can create that as an evergreen webinar. That means that somebody can click on your website and go, oh, that sounds like an interesting event. Oh, that's lucky, one that starts in 10 minutes time. And off they go. They've got the content there and then. So the best person that I've kind of learned from on this is a guy called John Penberthy. He's the guy that taught Andy Harrington and a whole load of others about creating evergreen webinars. And it just means that you can educate people when it's convenient for them in a way that has them then doing whatever you want to do. And the advice that John's given me is that if your offer is of less, it costs the client less than £1,000, you probably want to try and get them to sign up for that offer in the evergreen webinar. If it's like, financial planning where it's significantly more than that, actually the best thing is just to get them to book the call. So if it's your mid-ticket stuff, which would be £1,000 or less, or your low-ticket stuff, which might be £100 or less, you just get the webinar to get them to sign up through the QR code and action it there and then. If it's high-ticket stuff, like I want a financial plan, I want to understand how I consolidate my pensions, better to book onto a coaching call. And obviously we've done that with things like the Unleash the Power of AI, which is our AI webinar that then goes on to sell the AI Masterclass course. And then the idea is that the AI Masterclass course brings people into this environment here. And so you might want to think about that as a stepping stone of, okay, so can we sell something low ticket through this sort of format? Can that get them signing up to something mid-ticket? And then that has them coming in as a educated and trusting client into the higher ticket stuff. So yeah, examples of that are Unleash the Power of AI, which is live on our website, how to write a business book, which I'm guessing, Bhavesh, you did alongside doing the AI Masterclass, which is why you ended up with a book in 3 months. So that kind of gives you the framework as to how to go about that. In terms of the specific tools you want to use for that, Webinar is what we use for all of our evergreen webinars. And there are a couple of others out there. That one seems to work as well as any. We're also just starting to use a new system called Funneler, which is the tool that brings all of these different tools together. So that's Kajabi, where the courses sit, Webinar, ClickFunnels, all of that kind of stuff is coming into one place, which seems to be a useful tool. One of the other things that you can do to kind of help educate and bring awareness to your ideal clients is the quiz funnel, which I've talked about earlier. People actually really like the quiz funnel. And so Nitesh created all the previous ones for us, which was the Entrepreneurial Happiness Scoreboard, 2-minute retirement plan. I know Steve uses Score app, which is Daniel Priestley's equivalent. That's much more off the shelf. So we couldn't have built the 2-minute retirement plan inside Score app because you've got things like a lifetime cash flow forecast in there, albeit a basic version of it. If you want to copy the 2-minute retirement plan, I suggest you speak to Nitesh because he'd probably we don't exactly. Yeah, you can talk about that to Nitesh. Yeah. I'm open to a conversation. It's not really that much, not that useful to us anymore. Yeah, if you want to steal that, we can talk. But Score app is just an off-the-shelf. Here's give 10 questions, give some answers. Here's a lovely that's the off-the-shelf solution if you want something like that. But it does create a lot more engagement, and it's also a really nice thing to have if somebody gets in contact and you're saying, well, book this call, or we're going to have this follow-up call. In the meantime, you might want to do this, and it'll just bring more awareness.
This is on your website?
Yeah. So basically, this is on the website. We will advertise to it as well. So if we go back to the Entrepreneurial Happiness Scoreboard, it's 20 questions, and it's going to go through the different areas that we cover within the trusted team. And you're going to say, yes, I'm getting loads of referrals, or no. And then in the bespoke report, if you say no, in the bespoke report, one of the bits will be, well, we can build you a referral system. So that's one of the ways that the trusted team can help you. So it's really if they say, yes, I'm doing this, they get a pat on the back. If they say, no, I'm not doing it, it's like, right, we know that's a pain point. So we know that we can now say, this is something you should do. It's going to create huge amounts of value. We can help you by this. So it's essentially a quiz, and yeah. It's just a way of getting engagement with people and giving them value for nothing more than the cost of giving their email address and knowing that you're going to spam them until they unsubscribe. Then the final piece is about Amplify. So this is then about trying to get the message out wider, getting more of that organic content out there, and really just building long-term trust and visibility amongst the people that are important. Gary Vaynerchuk is one of the people that's amazing at this. He talks about the jab, 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 hook principle, which is sort of like Carol's EIEIO. I quite like her acronym for that. But yeah, jab, 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 hook is value, 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 offer. Value, 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 offer. So that might be, oh, I've written this blog, or I've done this podcast, or I've done this video, and then, by the way, you can buy my course here, or by the way, I'm doing this. So you want to give 3, but I think actually probably since Vaynerchuk said this, I think I've heard since it's 7 pieces of value to every offer. I think you've probably probably Carol's advice here is good advice in the sense that whatever you feel comfortable with is probably what your audience feels comfortable with, because you know your audience better than each audience will be different, won't it? I know I'm on John Penberthy's email list. Don't subscribe to his email list. I need to get some of their emails because I'm a part of one of their mastermind groups, but I would unsubscribe instantly if it wasn't for that. There's just way too many for me. I'm not going to go into any detail on Vaynerchuk, but he's one of the people that would is worth digging into the detail of if you want to kind of go into looking at this approach. But what I would say is the 80-20%, 80-20 rule of content does apply, and he talks about this in that you're going to get 80% of your engagement from the best 20% content. So you've got to work out what that is and then potentially boost that. But I think the other thing with this is you've got to move, to use Eben Pagan's term, move the free line. Give way more away for free. Like we used to get people in Efficient Portfolio, we get people saying, I can't believe you put this article in Rutland Pride every month and you talk about so much of what you do. Aren't you giving away too much of the secret? No. The more we give away, the more information we give away, because we're not we were never in the business of selling the information. We were in the business of helping people implement what we knew that we were the experts at. So the more trust you can build by moving the free line, giving away free books and free podcasts and free webinars and free events, and giving away all of that stuff for free, all it has people thinking is, wow, the paid for stuff must be really brilliant.